Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show. Coming up, we're going to talk about how DVC point rentals have evolved as we enter 2021. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Coming to you from the Bob Varley studio here in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined this week in the studio only by my producer, Mr. Corey Fiascanaro.
And that's so I can welcome you home. Welcome home.
And via Skype, Nick Cotton, who's the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer for the World of DVC. Hi, Nick.
Hey, everybody.
There we
hello.
go. There we go. Use your words, Nicholas. Use your words. We're also joined by the brand ambassador for DVC Rental Store, Kerri McPherson.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here.
And the president of DVC Rental Store, Tony Adranya.
Hey, everybody. So happy to be here.
I think I got that right, Tony, right?
You did. Nailed it.
Okay. All right. Welcome, folks. Hope your week is off to a good start. And as I was brainstorming with Nick for some ideas for shows to do in this batch, as you know, we pre-record a number of shows in one sitting. And Sean would be here with us, but he has a real estate issue he has to deal with, so he's on the phone with a client. But as we were brainstorming the ideas for the show, Nick wanted to talk about particularly how the DVC point rental industry market has kind of evolved recently. There's some changes, certainly some changes to DVC Rental Store. So I'm going to let him start this off with some of those changes and where he sees this market going. Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that intro, Pete. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this because for me, being involved with DVC Rental Store is a bit new, really as of last year. And then Tony's actually a new president for Rental Store as well as of late last year. And the thing that was always beautiful about renting DVC points for people, it was a great way to afford these amazing DVC villas without necessarily having perhaps the commitment of purchasing DVC yet. For some people, it was also, that good opportunity to kind of get a taste of it in a very affordable way. And then if I like it, then maybe perhaps even purchase Disney Vacation Club. Well, there was always a little bit of a downside, even though it was very affordable. Sometimes for a lot of the folks that are intermediaries in this industry, they required a full deposit or a big chunk of the full cost upfront at time of booking. And so you're obviously taking off some of the greatness about the overall savings if I can't even start at ground zero. And so one of the things that we really wanted to revolutionize with DVC Rental Store is how can we capture both? How can we keep those great savings, but then also, allow folks to have a much easier entry into booking that stay? And so at Rental Store, we've actually lowered the deposits down to 25%. Where, like I said, commonly they were as high as 100% deposit at time of booking. Another thing that was a big learning in 2020 as I stepped into that industry is that 2020, unlike any other year, you would realize that, wow, there is a need for a built-in cancellation policy as well. Because before it was at Rental Store, it was an option. At some places there was no option at other locations to rent DVC points. But when you see 2020, you had so many cases where people may have not opted to buy into a cancellation policy, and they significantly regretted not doing that. And when it's a lot of people, it almost feels like they feel like, well, gosh, it should have been built in already. There almost becomes an expectation of that. And I think too, what the consumer looks at is they look at it compared to what was the alternative. And if I'd booked at Walt Disney World, there is a built-in cancellation policy. But the benefit, of course, of one of the reasons I rented points was there was a huge savings with it. So how can we combine the best of both worlds? How at DVC Rental Store could we give folks that assurance of a built-in cancellation policy while you're still saving a significant amount of money by renting the points out?
Well, it sounds to me like you had to do what we all had to do, which was pivot and adjust. I think I used those two words more in 2020 than I have in the entirety of my life. Pivot and adjust. Learn from the experience. I mean, none of us saw that coming. None of us saw the pandemic coming. We all had to adjust our businesses, not just to get through what we're dealing with, but also to, deal with the future and, position ourselves for growth. I know I've certainly had to do that with my travel agency. I've had to do that with these shows, with my other websites. So how has that been received so far? That particular change, Nick?
I think it's been received very well for the guests coming in and trying DVC Rental Store and then using us again. We've seen a lot of our guests say, I rented a couple years ago, now I'm coming back again. We've all been through something, whether it's been tragic, as much as COVID was, but I feel like we've all kind of been in the same storm together. And so a lot of our guests have said, thank you for building in the point protection plan, because then if in 6 months something comes up that I'm not able to travel, I have the security piece as well. So there's certainly been some bumps in the road, just like anything. We kind of took the approach of you said, we listened, and we really wanted to have our guests and our members know that we deeply care about what the, experience that they're having. You want them to know that DVC Rental Store is a great place to come, whether you're going to rent your points as a member or you're going to rent and kind of do that try before you buy as well on the guest side. And then just come back to Disney and have the vacation, have the experience that you really have been wanting to have. So it's been really, I think, met with such great response and great reviews. Again, a few little bumps on the roads and whatnot, but that's just kind of with anything. But it's a great product to really be proud of because it gives people the opportunity to stay in these beautiful DVC resorts without really having to pay this high of a price.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to do this show, not just to talk about, the evolution of that particular market, but it's not something that previously that we talked about too much on these shows about point rentals. And I will be completely transparent as to why. As you all probably know, I'm one of the owners of Dreams Unlimited Travel. And people renting out points for DVC would cannibalize my travel business. So that was why one of the reasons I was very happy as we were working out the details of World of DVC coming on to sponsor our show and our DVC content on the Diz and DVC fan. I said, okay, well, we got to do something about that problem. If you want me talking about point rentals, I've got to have something. So Dreams Unlimited Travel does now sell DVC rental stores pre-booked vacations, and those have been going really, really well. And just so you know what those are DVC members will go ahead and book certain dates at a certain resort, and they will rent out that reservation. Rather than renting out a certain number of points, they're renting out that reservation. And obviously, as we've talked about on other shows in the past, that usually almost always represents a pretty significant savings over if you were just booking that room paying cash, if you're not a DVC member. So I'm glad I'm able to talk about this stuff now and focus on it because there is, I've always said it's try before you buy. DVC is a big commitment. Financially, it's a big commitment. It's not cheap. And if you've not experienced DVC before, it can be daunting to, pull that trigger. to buy a contract. And I always thought this was a great in-between where you could rent out some points, go have the experience, see the resorts, experience staying in these DVC villas, DVC rooms, and then decide from there. How often, let me throw this over to you, Tony. How often do you see people rent the points and then say, you know what, I'm in. I want to become a DVC member?
Yeah, it's fairly often, and Nick may be able to talk to this point a little bit more too, just on the resale market side of of him talking with the folks that come over to him. But we often, especially now that we have a true partnership with the DVC resale market, we send a follow up with all of our guests that travel with us, and we have a significant amount of people that say, "Hey, I'm interested. Who do you recommend?" And now, obviously, we've recommended DVC resale market in the past, but now we have a true avenue to connect with them. But it's not uncommon for folks to rent DVC points and to then decide, hey, this is something I want to do long term, and then we turn them over to DVC resale market.
All right, well, let me ask this question, and this is for any of you. What are the biggest misconceptions that you come across when it comes to point rentals?
Yeah, I can go ahead and field that one, Pete. And when we talk with our guests, there is some and even members, there is some fear sometimes where they might be fearful of a numerous amount of things that could happen when you book any sort of reservation. But the whole premise and the whole idea of the DVC rental store is a trustworthy intermediary that is here to help you. We're available almost all hours of the day. I would say we're 9 to 9. Monday through Friday and on the weekends and all that good stuff. So you're able to chat with us and just have that comfort level that you have an intermediary there that's here to protect you. And that's something that, that fear is able to subside pretty significantly and pretty quickly once they chat with us.
So, Nick, what are some of the things you hear on your end? What are some of the other misconceptions that you think people should know about or we should address so that people don't fall into those traps?
Well, I think it's so important to have that trustworthy intermediary. I've been asked before by existing resale market clients, "Oh, I've got this person that's going to rent my points," and yada yada yada. And I'm like, "Well, what's your intermediary? Who are you going through? What do you have in a contract?" Well, no, they just I just found them on Facebook or wherever. And I just tell people, I'm like, look, there's a reason why people buy, Disney Vacation Club contracts on the resale market through a reputable broker. Same reason you want to rent points through a reputable intermediary. There's a reputation there to protect versus just the individual. You're at much more of a substantial risk. And something else too, we were talking about just historically, as Tony mentioned, we've recommended people from resale market to rental store. Rental store recommended us, and now we're a part of the same umbrella. But one thing that I think is really great about it, something you always talk a lot about, Pete, is buy where you want to stay. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where rental is a real benefit for people who haven't commonly stayed in these premium villas before, and they want to get an idea for it. That's where rentals is really beneficial, right? Because you say, hey, I've heard so many great things, perhaps about the Polynesian or the Animal Kingdom. But I'm not sure for myself. I haven't actually stayed there. We would have these conversations over the years at resale market, and in recommending rental store was always a great option for those folks to say, hey, if your gut tells you that you really like that place, but you're not quite sure, you really want to try before you buy, why don't you talk to my friends over there, go try it out, and then before you make that final purchase. So I think you've always said that for a long time, and I think that's great advice. And I think the rental program really allows people to explore that in a very inexpensive way.
Well, and I think on the other side of that equation, if you're not interested in buying DVC, one of the real values in these, and I mentioned it before, is let's say you rent it, you go to DVC rental store and you rent out a 1-bedroom at Bay Lake Tower. The points for a 1-bedroom or at Bay Lake Tower. right then and there, go onto Disney's website and price out those dates in that room and see what that's going to cost if you go direct through Disney versus renting those. You don't have to have any interest in buying DVC. It's a massive savings. And we're talking about a 1-bedroom villa. We see this question all the time on the travel agency side that, we're a large family, there's 7 of us coming down. Where can we stay? And then we have to quote them these rooms. And they're like, are you high? Are you doing drugs? I can't afford that. Where now it's nice to be able to point them to, okay, there's a less expensive way of doing this. It comes up all the time. So I think there's also that fact that people should be aware of when it comes to renting points. That it is, I'm not going to say it's always in every case, but 95% of the time, it is cheaper to rent the points than it is to rent the room directly through Disney. And
I think, Pete, also it's nice. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, please go ahead.
I think it's also nice, too, if you're going to rent the points, say for a 1-bedroom, in the time of COVID and in the time when, travel is, we're wanting to travel, where I'm dying to travel again, and to come here and say, I don't know that we'd spend that much time in the parks. The 1-bedroom has space, the door that Derek talked about on one of your shows, and just the space for the family, but also it has the washer and dryer. So you think about cleanliness and germs and being around other people. Come home and throw everybody's clothes in the washer and dryer, and then go back home. And now you've done Disney without the commitment of buying resale and without having to pay sort of the rack rate that you see on, DisneyWorld.com. And you've kind of tried this before you bought.
It is, it honestly, the biggest push for point rentals is how much money you save. Mm-hmm. How much money you save. You don't have to be interested in DVC. You don't have to want to buy into DVC. If you are interested and you want to, try before you buy, it's a great way to do it with point rentals. But just in general, just going and like I mentioned, I'm going to push Dreams Unlimited Travel. We have there'll be a link to it in the show notes below this here on YouTube. We have the pre-booked vacations, the pre-booked DVC vacations that you can book through us. That supports Dreams Unlimited. It supports our sponsors. It supports my agents who get paid commission on that. So if you enjoy our content and you want to show your support, that's certainly one great way to do it. Is there anything else I'm missing, Nick, that you want to bring up? Or
no, I think this has just been terrific. I think again, for me, being in the point rental business has been a new thing. We've been partners for many, many years. But I just think with the evolution of this in the especially going into 2021, with the learnings from 2020, have been quite revolutionary. And so I think it's just a very exciting time in the world of DVC renting points to be able to bring the best of both worlds together, meaning the savings that you've always gotten from rental, along with the comfort that you would have typically gotten if you would have booked direct.
All right. And there you have it. So thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us. That's going to do it for our show for this week. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next Monday with another edition of the DVC Show. Have a great week, folks.